Welcome back, everyone. In this lecture, we're going to discuss the basics of performing GroupBy operations with pandas. Often, when working with pandas data frames, you may want to perform an analysis based off the value of a specific column, meaning you want to group together other columns based off another column. So, in order to do this, we have to perform three steps. When we're performing GroupBy operations, we're really performing three steps. We're splitting the data, or grouping it, then we're applying some sort of function to those split groups, and then we combine the data back in to get back a singular data frame. Fortunately, Pandas is going to do all of this for us on the back end with a simple method call, .groupby. But in case you're not familiar with GroupBy, so for example, maybe you haven't used SQL or SQL, and you're not familiar with this idea, let's quickly go over the fundamental aspects. Let's first imagine we have a data frame, where we have some sort of categorical column, where we have A's, B's, and C's. So we have categories here, and then we have some sort of continuous data value. So in order to provide or perform a group by operation here, what we're going to do is we first perform a split step or grouping step. And this is going to be group by on the category column or the categorical values. So we essentially split everything up based off their categories. So we have the A's, the B's, and the C's. Then, after we perform this split, we apply some sort of function and then combine it back into a singular data frame. So, the apply part has to be some sort of aggregate function. And aggregate just means you're able to take in multiple values and return back a single value. So, sum is an aggregate function. It can take in many values and then sum them up to return back a single value. Another example would be something like a mean. A mean is just the average, and that can take in multiple values and return back a single value. All we're doing here is we're taking our original data, splitting it up into groups, applying some aggregate function, and then viewing the result. And this is all going to be performed for us when we work with pandas and GroupBy. So pandas will automatically make the grouped by column the index of the new resulting data frame. Let's explore this in more detail with pandas and a Jupyter Notebook. Okay, here I am in the Jupyter Notebook. You notice that I already have some code. This is simply the code from the GroupBy notebook. So I've imported pandas as PD, and then I have this data dictionary, which has a company, person, and sales key, along with a list of some values for each of them. And then I'm just casting pd.dataframe with that data, and then I get back this data frame that looks something like this. I have a company category, a person category, and then sales. So let's quickly show you how you can perform GroupBy. All you need to do is grab the data frame object, call GroupBy, and then you pass in the category. So let's go ahead and group by company, since we have multiple values or multiple duplicate values of company. So for example, maybe I wanted to know what the top sales were per company. So I can say group by company, and if you just do a group by, you get back this core group by object stored at some location in your memory. The reason you don't see any result is because, as I mentioned, you need to perform some sort of aggregate method or function call on this group by object. So pandas is still waiting. It's already done the split, or it's ready to do the split, but it's waiting for you to tell it how you actually want to combine or aggregate this data together. So let's imagine we wanted to know the max sales, or maybe even the average sales, like mean sales. All we need to do is add in the method call for that particular aggregate function, such as mean. And when you run that, we get back the mean sales per company. So we get back the mean sales for Facebook, Google, and Microsoft. And don't be confused here by the name company and the name sales. Sales is the column, company is the name of the new index. So company here, that's not actually a column, that's an index. And Pandas tries to show this by putting these guys kind of on separate levels or separate lines. So what Pandas automatically does is it takes in that original column and then creates it as the index when you call it with GroupBy. And you can do a variety of methods here. You can check for the max, you can check for the standard deviation, and so on. Sometimes what people like to do is they just call describe on this GroupBy object, and then you'll see the actual count, mean, standard deviation, min, max, and quartile values per company. And sometimes what people also like to do is transpose this. Whoops. You can do transpose to basically flip the columns into the rows and the rows into columns. And when you transpose it, you get something that looks like this, which I technically prefer a little better. Here we can see the sales and then per company, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft. The main idea here is that you group by a column, and then you call any sort of aggregate function you want. And here you can see a list of the aggregate functions: count, mean, standard deviation, min, and max. And you can check out the Python documentation, the pandas documentation, if you want more information on these aggregate method calls that are built into pandas. But the main idea here is all we're doing is we're selecting a categorical column to group by, and then some sort of aggregation function, such as counting, mean, min, or max, and seeing the results per category. Okay, that's it for this lecture. Thanks, and we'll see you at the next one.